Perfect. Hopefully it's sharing everything properly. But yes, as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, we're going to explore the details of the Gilman Scholarship and how it opens doors to amazing global experiences. So we'll cover what the scholarship is, its eligibility requirements, and then share some valuable tips for a successful application as you go through it yourself. Because we are officially, I think, 2 weeks out from the Gilman upcoming deadline on March 9th. It's on a Thursday, it's on a Pacific time, so we'll dive into those details as well. Um, but yes, so the Gilman Scholarship is sponsored by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, or ECA, as you can see on the screen, in the US Department of State. So the ECA leads a wide range of academic, professional, and cultural exchanges with the goal of increasing mutual understanding and mutual respect between the people across the United States and the people of other countries. So, this scholarship is just one of the many programs that's sponsored by the ECA. The Gilman Scholars not only get a wonderful amount of funding, but they also become a part of a network that approximately like 55,000 people who participate in ECA programs get every year. So, it opens up opportunities to funding and it opens up opportunities to a large network of people to connect with. Gilman is within the Office of USA Study Abroad, which is committed to shaping and sustaining a more peaceful, prosperous world and increasing and diversifying participation in study abroad. So there's definitely more info about their missions and their goals on their page directly, which I'll link to the end of this presentation. But that's where you can read the ECA's mission as overall. We're going to dive next into the Gilman highlights. If my slide will go, there we go. So all Gilman scholars are Pell Grant recipients. 50% are first-gen college students. 60% come from small towns or rural communities. And as I was mentioning, there's a large network of students, so you'll have access to also being a Gilman alum, other Gilman networking opportunities. They've sent students to over 160 countries of study. And there's many universities represented, so it's not only CU Boulder, it's national across the US. And that's why it's a very competitive scholarship overall. So we're going to dive into the Gilman program, the eligibility, and then the benefits that come with the scholarship. To be eligible for Gilman, you do have to be a US citizen or national. You have to be an undergraduate student, so it can't be in the graduate level standing. You have to be receiving the federal Pell Grant through your FAFSA, through your financial aid. If you're not sure if you do, you can double check with Office of Financial Aid, but it's a large amount. So this is definitely a huge requirement for the Gilman. Your program that you choose for your study abroad semester must be credit bearing, which means it has to be an approved program through our office. You have to be receiving credit for it back to your university. If you are unsure about your program being credit bearing, please ask us, ask our office. We have a large list of programs offered through the Education Abroad office, but we also understand that students might be interested in some other non-approved programs. And we would just have to revisit if you could get credit or not. So when you are applying to these programs for a credit-bearing study abroad program, it also has to be in a country or area with an overall travel advisory level of 1 or level 2. What those means is you have to exercise normal precautions or exercise increased caution. This is all across the board for different countries. If you go to the US Department of State website, it will usually rank whether or not it's a travel advisory level 1, level 2. The more concerning locations will be a level 3 or higher. So if you are choosing a location that is between level 1 and 2, it is going to be an approved program through the Gilman folks. So the level 1 and level 2 indicate a relatively safe condition for people to travel to, which suggests more safer status is, versus the opposite. If it was more concerning, we would obviously be in touch with you and Gilman would not approve the funding for it. But you also, as an applicant, have to be in the process of applying to or accepted for a study abroad or internship program that's eligible for credit through CU. Multi-country programs are allowed, like if you are doing multiple locations within one semester, such as our open campus programs. But you do need proof of program acceptance, which will be covered through my certification of your application. And also if Gilman reaches out requiring you further information, I will be happy to write a letter regarding your acceptance to the program through our office. But to reiterate, this scholarship that this session is about provides funding for U.S. undergraduate students who receive the federal Pell Grant to participate in study abroad programs. So this entirety of the scholarship aims to diversify the kinds of students who study abroad and encourages students to take advantage of global opportunities. And these scholarships can cover up to $5,000, depending on the program and the length of the stay. But please note that once you do apply to this scholarship, the Gilman Scholarship recipients can only receive this scholarship one time. So if a student previously declined the Gilman Scholarship, they are welcome to reapply as long as they still meet all eligibility requirements as listed here on this page. And I will note there's no minimum program length. So it can be a short-term program that you're doing over the summer, a few weeks, or if you're doing a longer term program, there's no minimum program length to be able to pursue or get funding through the Gilman Scholarship. Diving next into a little bit of the Gilman-McCain. So the Gilman-McCain Scholarship provides awards of $5,000, and this is for dependents. So it's either going to be a child or a spouse of active or activated United States military personnel during the time of application to study or intern abroad on credit-bearing programs. So this was developed under the framework of the State Department's John McCain International Scholarship for Military Families. So this one is open to eligible students enrolled at accredited U.S. colleges and universities who receive any type of the Title IV federal financial aid. If you know that this could be applicable to you, I'm happy to be in touch further with more details. Because to apply to this, you will be using the online Gilman-McCain application, and you will be required to upload a copy of your military dependent ID to submit the application in its entirety. And I'm happy to walk through it if this is specific to you, but it is a separate scholarship to the Gilman Scholarship. And I wanted to make sure we emphasize this. The eligibility for the Gilman-McCain, besides being a dependent, again, a child or a spouse of active or activated United States military personnel during the time of application, and having any type of Title IV federal financial aid, all of the other eligibility requirements are the same as the Gilman. So including being a U.S. citizen or national and undergraduate student, making sure you were approved on a credit-bearing program. So the eligibility for Gilman remains the same, in addition to being a dependent of active U.S. military personnel. For the amount of scholarship funding, recipients can receive up to $5,000 to use towards your program costs and related expenses, so such as tuition and fees, room and board, any book expenses, local transportation, health insurance, international airfare, passport and visa costs. So any personal expenses such as clothing, entertainment, those are not eligible, but everything that does go towards your program costs, such as the tuition and fees, passport and visa costs, Gilman can help with the funding opportunities. The exact award that recipients get varies depending on each student's need, the strength of your application, and the program cost of the program that you're selecting. So students can apply the scholarship towards a fall program, a spring, summer, winter, or academic year term program. And the Gilman often asks students, or students usually ask Gilman, I'm sorry, what are the chances of me receiving a scholarship? So generally, I'd say, and what Gilman has said too, is that 1 in 4 students are awarded the scholarship, if that gives you an idea. So if you are selected for a Gilman scholarship, recipients utilize the portal, and there's going to be a passport protected secure Gilman recipient portal to make sure that you receive your funding is distributed to you as to how those steps work. But you will never be contacted by phone or email to provide personal bank information if you are awarded this scholarship. So all will be communicated promptly through Gilman, through that Gilman portal, that secure Gilman portal to receive the funding. We're going to dive into some optional awards that go hand in hand with the general Gilman application. So I wanted to highlight Critical Need Language Award first. And this is for applicants who are studying a critical need language in a country in which the language is predominantly spoken. And they can apply for a supplemental award of up to $3,000. So this CNLA, so the Critical Need Language Award, it lists current critical languages, but we do have to check the website to make sure this hasn't changed since this was recently updated on the Gilman site, because the number of eligible countries and languages supported by the CNLA are subject to change frequently. So we just got to double check that the program you're applying to, if it is going to be taught in a specific language, or if you're going to be studying the language of that country, this could be of a good interest to you. So in addition to receiving additional funds for your language of study, students who win this award and complete their Gilman scholarship requirements will be offered the opportunity to take the oral proficiency interview. And this test with the results will serve as an evaluation to make sure that you are eligible to receive the award, and it'll be a measure of the award and as a credential for the award recipient. So again, this is a list of some of the already critical need languages, but this could be updated, or this could change, or have a longer list on the exact Gilman website. If you have questions about the critical need, I'm happy to dive into those as well towards the end of the presentation. But this is one of the supplemental awards. Another supplemental award opportunity is the STEM Supplemental Award. And this is for supporting students who are focused on science, technology, engineering, or mathematic fields during their time at CU. So if you're conducting any STEM-related research as part of your study abroad or your international internship program, you can apply for the supplemental award of up to $1,000. So this is in addition to the general award that we had mentioned previously of the $5,000. So this would be in addition to that, because it'll be related specifically to a STEM supplemental award. The research that you are conducting as a STEM student must already be formally integrated into your credit-bearing program. So if this is a research program you're pursuing through our office, or an internship that will allow you to pursue further research, it should be already integrated into the program that you're choosing to be applying to this award. And for all successful applicants, they should demonstrate, a strong motivation to the STEM fields, and how this research experience that they're pursuing will extend beyond their time abroad into their future academic and career goals. So something to note though for this one, the applicant is not required to be in the STEM field major. Like, it doesn't have to be a major in the STEM field. It could be any student as long as they're pursuing some sort of STEM related research opportunity. But it doesn't have to imply that you have to be a STEM major. It is for all majors, but the program that you are applying to does have to conduct STEM related research. Next, diving into some other Gilman alum benefits. So as we were mentioning earlier in the presentation, you will not only receive funding from Gilman, but join a network of other alums that give you the opportunity to network for future career opportunities, for future networking opportunities. And it's a valuable opportunity, especially if you are interested in pursuing a career in the government field. When you become a Gilman Scholar and you have completed your follow-on service project, which we will dive into next, you have access to these different opportunities that you see on the slide. So the Gilman Scholar Network, it's the official site for Gilman Scholars and alum to connect with one another via a secure and private platform. So you know they are all real people and they are official, but it'll give you access to that network as well as access to exclusive job postings and also Gilman events that you can attend. You'll have access to seminars and career workshops. So these events are available to all scholars to network and connect with other alum. And these workshops are also a great place to learn about the many other career opportunities. But the non-competitive eligibility for federal jobs, as listed as the second bullet point on the slide, what this is that the alum of the Gilman program are eligible for 12 months of non-competitive eligibility, which is a hiring status with the federal government. It allows U.S. federal government agencies to hire eligible exchange program alum outside of the formal, already competitive job announcement processes. So Gilman alum can also compete for certain federal employment jobs that are open to federal employees already. And it's a benefit that basically allows Gilman alum to jump to the front of the application line when they're applying for certain federal jobs. It doesn't guarantee them a job necessarily, but it makes it much easier to be hired. And this 12-month period begins on the last day of the study abroad program or the intern program that you pursued. The federal agencies may extend the period of eligibility for as many as 2 additional years, just depending on what your goals turned out to be or your graduation timeline. But this means that you have flexibility there as well. So these are just some of the more benefits to the Gilman program. Now let's dive into the actual application process and what it's going to look like if you are interested in applying. So we're going to jump into the juicy details. I'll show you the 2-step process, which really is only a 1-step process because what you have to focus on is completing your essays, submitting your unofficial transcripts, selecting your advisor, and then providing the exact program information that you're selecting. So it's reality just 1 because the step 2 is more for me to complete. So focusing on step 1, the online application asks for the details of your program, 3 essays, or 4 if you decide to do one of the supplemental essays like the critical language or the STEM supplemental award. So you'll need 3 essays minimum though. And the Gilman program requires transcripts for applicants' current institution. So you would submit your CU transcript and also transcripts from any previous institutions that you attended. These transcripts can be official or unofficial, but I'll talk about the essays here in the next slides to go into more details. The study abroad certification is for me and for the Office of Financial Aid. So once you submit your Gilman application, I will be the one certifying your application on the Ed Abroad side to let them know that you are a real student, that you are pursuing that specific program. And then what the study Office of Financial Aid office does is just confirm that you do receive the Pell grant. The financial advisor has recently changed from Vanessa Sanchez over at the Office of Financial Aid. So I will be listing and sending out information on the new Office of Financial Aid advisor shortly. But essentially, once you submit this application, both of the advisors certify your application within the deadline. Please note that it's not required to contact us about this. As soon as you submit your application, we get a notification that you submitted it and that your application is ready to be certified. So we will do so within the certification deadline. So all you need to do is focus on completing all of your required pieces, and then you leave the rest up to us so that we can complete the rest of your application. So now let's dive into closer look at the application. So the first essay, which is the minimum first essay you do have to complete, one out of the three, is a statement of purpose. You'll see that maximum characters is up to 7,000. So it's roughly about a page and a half. The essays are important because the selection panelists, the advisors, and the administrators at the US campuses, they review these applications, and this is their only way of getting to know who you are and the reasons that you are choosing to study abroad. So in the application, the Gilman program provides prompts for each of these essays and questions that you should consider answering in your essays, which we can also look through in a moment. And this first essay, the statement of purpose, is essentially a personal interview on paper. So within this essay, you should talk about the impact of study abroad on your academic goals, on your professional goals, your personal growth, as well as how the Gilman Scholarship can help you accomplish these goals. So you should touch upon what inspired you to study abroad and what challenges you have faced in studying abroad, so that you can describe the knowledge, skills, and experiences that can be drawn on. And that way you can meet the challenges and the experiences that you might be looking forward to or be facing currently. Keep in mind that all students applying to the Gilman program have financial need. So you may speak of this need that you may also have, but also elaborate on other challenges that you face in addition to financial challenges, because it has to go a little bit deeper than that. They want more details, they want more thought given through this essay. And to guide you with ideas for this essay, here are some questions to ask yourself initially. So as you're writing the statement of purpose, ask yourself if you make a connection between your program and your goals. Like, how is the program that you've selected helping you move towards your goals that you have, either for CU, for your academic career, or after you graduate, if it's something, what your goals are, what you're interested in. Does this statement of purpose make a connection between your country and your goals? Like, if you're visiting a specific country for a certain reason, like researching in Africa, or if you are pursuing a business degree and you wanted to learn the business in Milan, Italy, how is the country you're choosing related to your long-term goals? You also have to think, do you share how you will be academically successful on your program? Making sure you're going to stay in touch with advisors on the program on site, and making sure you're being successful academically to complete your program appropriately. You should also think about giving examples of your experiences, giving examples of your skills, and giving examples of the knowledge that you will use to meet different program challenges. And lastly, considering if you address how this abroad experience will impact your future. So they really want, again, the juicy details of if you really thought about this, how it relates to your goals, and being very specific, because this first piece of the essay is like an interview as to why you want the Gilman and how it relates to study abroad, how it relates to your long-term goals. The next one I'll dive into is essay number 2, which is the community impact, the building mutual understandings essay. There are 2 community impact essays that are both required and equally as important, but you have the building mutual understanding essay, which requires you to answer how you will be a US citizen diplomat as a Gilman Scholar while abroad. So the key aspects to this essay are how you will be a great US representative abroad, and how you will seek opportunities to become more culturally engaged and have meaningful interactions with people from different cultures on your program. This essay has a maximum of 3,000 characters, so it shouldn't be as long or as bad as the first one, because I know the first one was a lot longer of max character requirements. So this one, again, is just building that community impact, how you will be a good US citizen representative abroad, and how you'll seek opportunities to become culturally engaged with the country that you're visiting. Some questions for this one to consider are to make sure that you are articulating your responses properly. You have to reflect on how will you discuss looking for opportunities to build meaningful relationships? What steps will you take to become more culturally engaged? How do you articulate how you will represent the US as a citizen diplomat while abroad? And just making sure you emphasize the details of what that behavior will look like, what steps you will take to do so, how you plan to culturally engage in the location that you are visiting. The third essay is the follow-on service project essay. So this one also has a maximum of 3,000 characters. And the Gilman program and the program sponsors at the US Department of State, they value the multiplier effect. So they value the multiplier effect that this program has on US campuses and different communities. And therefore, this project proposal, so the third requirement of Gilman, is requiring you to answer how you will represent the Gilman program upon your return home by requiring you to design a project. So it's going to be a project to promote the Gilman Scholarship Program. In this particular essay, you're going to be asked to map out a potential projects for them to complete once you return to the US. And that will encourage other students to study or intern abroad and spread awareness about the Gilman program. This project can be completed on your home campus or in your local community, and it must be completed within 6 months of your return to the US. And again, the key aspects of this particular follow-on project essay is to include how you will be an effective US representative and how you will spread the word about Gilman. So if you are awarded Gilman, what are the good traits about Gilman? Why should students apply? They want essentially your assistance in spreading the word about Gilman so more students have the opportunity to also study abroad and become global citizens. This can be projects such as reaching out to your local clubs on campus, such as presenting in one of your classes, making a plan to follow up with the rest of your community about the Gilman Scholarship once you have returned from your study abroad program. So for this particular portion, we want students to consider their audience, students to consider tools and timeline about what the project proposal will look like within the scholarship application. So again, the timeline, the plan of action that you're hoping to take, and what that will look like. So they want the details of your ideas for this project and this one. Some questions to ask yourself for that portion of the project or that portion of the essay. All right, here. So you have to think about your project, think about how your project will increase awareness of the Gilman Scholarship, how it will increase awareness of studying abroad. You have to really think if your project is feasible. You know, if you're giving yourself enough time to complete this project, if it's too grand, if it's too small. As you're writing the project proposal, think about, are you giving enough details, a detailed plan of your project? Do you include your study abroad experience into your project and how that affects the results of you wanting to advocate for Gilman or spread the word about Gilman? Do you have an intended audience? Are you presenting just to anybody, or do you have an intended audience that you want to target to make sure they are aware of this scholarship? And finally, who will you collaborate with to reach that community that you're thinking about? So here are some questions for the follow-on service project proposal to consider as you're writing your essay. But I'll dive now to circle back into the initial essays that I had mentioned that are a bit supplemental. So this is essay number 4 because again, you only need to write the 3 minimum essays to apply to Gilman. But now I'm diving into essay number 4, which is an optional extra essay you can complete, which is the critical need language essay. If you are interested in a country and you're interested in learning the language in that country, or the program will be fully taught in a different language, this would be really applicable to you. So as I explained earlier, applicants who are studying a critical need language while abroad in a country have the option to be considered for this one. And this is a supplemental award of 3,000. So the STEM one was 1,000 supplemental. This one is 3,000 supplemental. And this award is competitive, so it's offered to a limited number of students each year. And some key points to keep in mind if you are applying to this one is that you have to be sure that the language you are studying while abroad is considered a critical need language by the U.S. Department of State. And you can see that list again on the website that we had mentioned. You have to be sure that you are studying the critical need language in a country where it's predominantly spoken. And you have to explain the level of intensity of your critical need language study while you're abroad. How studying this language will further your academic and career goals, and what your motivations are for learning or improving your language proficiency, and how you intend to improve those skills while studying abroad. So how studying this language will further your academic and career goals could be, learning Spanish because you want to go into the medical field in a Spanish-speaking country, for example. But for this one, this essay has a maximum of 2,000 characters. Remember, this essay is optional, but it's applicable for countries where you will be going, let's say, on a program that will be predominantly speaking this language, or you're going to a country that you will plan to be pursuing the language of that country, excuse me. The next essay is the STEM Supplemental Award essay, like we had mentioned. So as explained earlier, the applicants who are conducting a STEM-related research as part of their study abroad or international internship program can apply for this one. The supplemental award is up to 1,000. This one has a shorter amount of character limit as well. It's up to 1,000 characters. Keep in mind that the applicants will be asked to summarize your STEM-related research component and your overall motivation towards the STEM field. It will also you'll be asked to share how this will contribute to your future academic or career goals. And you'll be asked to demonstrate a strong motivation to your STEM field. If you have questions about this one in particular, I'm happy to connect about it. But this one is a bit shorter. And remember, the supplemental award for this one is up to 1,000. Now, if we dive into the selection criteria for how your essays will be ranked and how they are determined. So students are selected based on the following: the impact of program and the destination on students' academic career and trajectory. So preference will be given to applicants who have not studied abroad before and to veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces. So they want to just be a considered application, a genuine application, genuine interest, detailed application. They want to review the community impact abroad and once you return home. So really diving into the details about how you will be a good global citizen abroad, how you will make those connections abroad, and how you will advocate for Gilman upon your return, and what your follow-on project service will look like. So to make sure that this experience essentially goes full circle. They also want they want to ensure that you are academically prepared to pursue this journey, because Gilman wants their scholars to be successful on their programs abroad. So you must demonstrate that academic preparedness, that initiative, that you'll get from studying abroad or interning abroad, which will already be extremely valuable to them. Um, the rest of the selection criteria will be more related to the critical need language or STEM research, which you can read more about the selection on the Gilman website since it'll be very particular to certain students. We are nearing the end here, so I want to go over the dates and deadlines of the Gilman and what that timeline will look like. So there are two deadlines to keep in mind. As I mentioned at the start of the presentation, there's a deadline coming up in 2 weeks for the March 6th deadline. It's a deadline for applicants and then the deadline for advisors. The application deadline is Thursday, March 6th at 11:59 Pacific time. The advisor deadline is March 13th, so a little bit later than that. So please be aware that the application, though, for you on March 6th is in Pacific time. And please take into consideration any time differences as you prepare to submit your application. Like if anyone is traveling and won't be like on Mountain Standard Time to be able to compare it to Pacific time, just please keep note that the PT stands for Pacific time. And that's at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So the March 2025 deadline is for programs that start between May 2025 through April 2026. This is the deadline for the upcoming round of Gilman. The next deadline, which if you do apply to this March deadline and don't get Gilman, you are still allowed to apply to the October deadline once again, as long as you meet the eligibility requirement again. So for October 2025, the deadline will be October 9th, but those applications won't open until mid-August. So if you are barely starting to browse through scholarships, browsing through funding opportunities, we can talk about the October planning and the October deadline, and I'll most likely host a different workshop again later in the fall semester. But for the October deadline, October 9th, 2025 at 11:59 Pacific time is the deadline for that one. But for the Gilman, if you haven't already started your application, applications have opened for this upcoming deadline in March. They opened mid-January and they'll be open through March 6th. So we are happy to help with the application piece, which is what I was going to dive into next as one of the last things we talk about here. Gilman really wants to emphasize that the best tip is to begin planning early, because you'll need to coordinate a lot of information, right? Related to your program abroad, related to your academic goals, your financial and logistical resources, and just spend time working on your essays. A survey of previous applicants indicated that it takes an average of 5 to 10 hours to complete the Gilman Scholarship application. So if you begin planning early, you'll be sure to have, like an hour, a day here and there before the last minute. Now, I understand, though, that there may be some of us in the room or on this session that barely heard about this scholarship and are planning to go abroad soon. And this is why we hosted this session at least 2 weeks before the final deadline, because now with the information that you've gathered, you can dedicate, say, an hour a day for the next week or so and still have a good application in time to turn in. So I'd be happy to get started on it with you as well as near the end of the session. But for now, it's just a matter of talking with your advisors, talking with your professors, talking with the writing department on campus to start building out ideas for your essays. That way you can begin building relationships with your advisors. And so you have a great way to leverage their wisdom or a great way to leverage their feedback on your essays too. So tips as you see on the slide is to try your best to create a compelling story. Take your time with the essays. The essays are going to be the main portion of your Gilman application, not your transcript, not the exact program you're going on, but the essays will be used to fully present yourself to the selection panel. So since you will not be meeting them in person, please take the time to review your answers and act as if you are presenting to them through your writing. So definitely demonstrate and talk about who you are, why you want to study or intern abroad, get across all of your passions, your interests, really attention to detail for these essays. Because a student who says they just want to go somewhere is not as compelling as a student who talks about what they plan on learning while they're abroad, how they plan to implement it while they return to the US. They'd really want considerate, genuine applications. So make sure you are fully answering the prompts. You invest time in drafting and editing, having others proofread your essays. You wouldn't believe how many students they have every year that they write study abroad, or study aboard instead of study abroad. So like little typos also, take the extra steps to proofread. Make sure you utilize the writing center on campus. If you didn't know already, they do provide one-on-one sessions to help with your essays. And am going to link or plug them here. This QR code will take you to book an appointment with them if you don't already know how to or where they're located. But yeah, here's a quick plug for them. They do free one-on-one sessions, and they are professionally trained writing consultants. They provide individualized guidance at any stage, whether you're brainstorming or you want a final revision. So that way you can expect to get more one-on-one assistance. So definitely try to avoid vagueness, ask for their input. I'm happy to read through applications as well if you send me an email as you're wrapping up your essays. But the Writing Center would be a wonderful place to start as you work through it. Another tip, one of the final tips I'd say is like as you're working through your drafts, to avoid vagueness, try to review your essay in a critical format where wherever you're writing the country that you're visiting, imagine hitting like Control F and plug in any other country. And if your essay still reads the same and it makes sense with any country, it's too vague. So really get specific, really change your language to be authentic writing that relates to the place that you're hoping to visit. Mention anything related to their culture, because this will all show, again, genuine interest and that you've done your research. The reminder slides are just more tips for students. So definitely stay in touch with me as you have questions through your application process. The Gilman Scholarship page also has a lot more information from other tips, other blogs from Gilman applicants already that you can look through. I will link here the exact pages for Gilman, the flyer for the Gilman Scholarship, and also, here we go, the Gilman McCain one-pager scholarship as well. But as you have questions, as you're working through the application, as you have any concerns, please note that, our office is here to help. Reminder that you'll note my name for the Ed Abroad advisor portion. And the Office of Financial Aid will be updating their advisor on this site, but the name that you see listed will be the one that you can select. Any questions right now? We have a few minutes left before the end of the hour. I want to give time and space for any burning questions now, or if not, you can also feel free to email me. But this is the main idea. Okay, I see a hand from Nathan. Let me stop the recording.